Welcome to Occult Awareness, where we illuminate the unseen challenges in healthcare. I am your host, Amy Wang Hiller, and each episode we explore the twisting paths to diagnosis and challenges faced by those with conditions that don't show up on those standard checkups. From EDS to CCI and beyond, we are here to bring you stories from those on the complex journey towards diagnosis. We also feature insights from health professionals who navigate these rare disorders. Join us as we uncover hidden truth, advocate for the unheard, and empower you to take charge of your health. Today we have Aella join us to tell her story and her battle with all the chronic illnesses and the diagnosis journey. So, welcome. Introduce yourself a little bit and just tell us a little bit background on yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Aella Askew. I've got quite a number of them. It's kind of like Pokemon, you catch them all. Um, I, so I've got an interesting story. Um, my journey begins at birth, but I didn't know that. I have EDS. It's genetic, but you just don't know it. And it's kind of like that whole, you grow up in pain and you have that whole story where you're constantly telling your mom like, "Ow, I'm hurting," and constantly getting in little accidents and bruises and bumps and always sick. And it just it never got picked up. But I do have an very early, like when I was 8, like migraine diagnosis. And I actually consider that I have a very vivid early memory of my mother turning down a tilt table test. And I consider that my lost opportunity. It was rough.
Wow. How early was that?
Yeah.
Like she actually got a tilt table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember her saying to the doctor, she doesn't need that. We know she has migraines because my mom had migraines. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I remember my parents being very just suck it up, you know. There were many times that I thought I should go to the hospital, and they were like, just grin and bear it, you know. And like I remember the one time I ended up with stitches on my forehead. I cried the whole way to the hospital saying, "No stitches, just a band-aid." And like I ended up getting stitches, but like my parents were like not having it. They had me strapped down to that bed. They were just like, no, you know? Like, I ended up kicking the nurse in the end.
Yeah, let's just add a little visual
Yeah, that's a
description.
great idea.
Yeah. So I am an Asian woman, and I have a dark blue navy blouses, and also with a pink headphone, like short hair. Yeah, and I'm in my power wheelchair, and I do have a front mouthpiece for giving me push of air ventilator. And yeah, I think I'm done.
And I currently am a white woman with green hair, and I also have pink headphones on, and I'm wearing a C collar, a neck brace. It's a hard neck brace, um, and I'm wearing a pink t-shirt, and I have a particularly fun one on today. It's a little spaceman with a POTS flag, and it says official gravity tester. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. If we can kind of like go back to continue the story as maybe you were
Yeah, yeah. So, um, so yeah, a typical EDS kid, lots of injuries growing up, and just parents that didn't get it. Um, I unfortunately later in life connected the dots, and I have a late autism diagnosis. Um, and I also have a hey 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 I'll explain in a second. I also have I also have a lot of childhood like neglect and trauma that's come out, and that's an unfortunate part of my story because a lot of doctors like to hinge on that. So if we fast forward now in my story, we come up to, you know, through a high school and college. I had a lot of injuries, and right as I went into college, I had to fund college. I was not fortunate. And my parents didn't like me like other people. Um, so I ran away with the circus. And one of the things that I liked about circus was the misfit aspect of it, because I was in pain my entire life. I've never not been in pain. So ran away with the circus, and I started with the sideshow because, well, didn't start there. I started with the tent crew.
Oh,
You start at the bottom, work your way up. And I did a little bit of everything. And I kind of wanted to do I wanted I wanted to do everything. I wanted to hang from stuff. I wanted to dance. I wanted to twirl because I did twirling as a kid. I wanted to walk on glass and breathe fire and do it all. And I did. I had a 25-year career in circus, and I did everything. I specialized in sideshow acts of enduring pain. I earned the name Princess of Pain and the pain-proof pinup. I'd had acts like the Human Dartboard, and my stage name was Catalina Askew. So I would pierce whiskers through my face, which requires you to map out all the veins in your face. Um, and so I would know where to pierce.
yeah.
Blind. I mean, I was always in pain, so I learned to overcome it even more. And it's actually a problem for me now. So, in 2018, I decided to semi-retire um to save my body.
Yeah.
hmm
Sounds like already starting like
The knees were going and the shoulders were starting to go, and I was just starting to feel all the aches and pains already. And, I was late 20s, early 30s. Um, and yeah, like early 30s, that's true. Because um so sorry, thinking. Um yeah, so yeah, so in 2018, I had a shake up in my life, and I ended up in Florida with a friend for 4 months, and then I ended back together with someone where we met and moved to Raleigh in between. And when I ended up in Raleigh, I got a job as a metal fabricator of circus apparatus. And that was great for me. It was a perfect lateral move. I was making apparatus for the people that I loved, and I got to test them out. And I was still, like still active, keeping myself moving and going, but not killing myself, or so I thought. I was using a lot of power tools daily, and I had one power tool that I held by using my left hand in front of me and my right hand up and behind my shoulder. Um, kind of like if you slung like a 12 pack over your shoulder. And the way that it vibrated and how I held it, it rested and vibrated on the base of my cervical spine for about your typical 8 hour a day, 40 a week,
Yeah.
you're so what essentially was happening was my spine was being compacted at the cervical point. No clue. And I was going to the gym still about 6 days a week because that was my training. I was used to this. I was the stand-in at any circus because I could be in the sideshow, but at any point in time, they needed somebody to jump in for an aerialist. I could do it. So I had to be in shape. And I also did a lot of character acting too. Played like Morticia for Fright Fest and Six Flags. Um, so it's just like you had to be ready. But I that 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 injury kind of amassed over time, over 8 months of time. And I was new here, and I didn't know anyone. We found the house on the internet, came here in the middle of the night, and set up base. So yeah, that was stupid. Just rethinking that now, because basically I woke up one morning and couldn't feel my arms. And then about a week or two passed, and the guy I was with convinced me to go to a chiropractor. And I'm sure we can all finish that sentence. Yeah, it didn't end well. It ended with me in the hospital. It also ended with me having to, at the very least, get my money back. But yeah, lots of legal words were said, and it didn't go well. I then found out that I had no legal recourse because the company that I was working for, I had worked for long enough to get insurance. And in the state of North Carolina, he was not required to carry any workers' comp because it was such a small company. And then the person that I was with, um, they were kind of pissed that I wasn't going to have their kids anymore and kicked me out of my own home. My high school best friend uh, GoFunded me into a local apartment. From there, I did what we all do. Got myself into Medicaid, got myself disability, called every charity we know, and got the doctors, started the fight. I had the first experience of splitting your pills down into 18ths to because there's no pain pills. And that's when it started for me. The first realization that they weren't going to treat me like anybody else. When it finally dawned on me that the medication I was getting wasn't ever going to work. This this free clinic I was going to because I didn't have anything. It got to the point where one day I was crying in the office and I was like, "Don't don't you believe me? I'm in pain." Like and he wrote that, but I didn't know that at the time. I was I was so hysterical and in so much pain that I couldn't believe that I overheard him laughing to the nurses that I was crying to him that he thought I was crazy. And I couldn't believe the surrealism of the moment because it had never happened to me. It was so gross. And at that moment, it all dawned on me. And that's the day I started advocating. I found advocates. I started digging. I started looking up. I became my own mama bear. That's when I found out that I should ask for my own records. So I asked for them. I can't believe they still exist as they do. I have things on there that say my problem is that I'm a woman, that I can't possibly have EDS because I don't walk like his other patient with EDS. He sent me to a neurologist, but only for gait. He would only give me psych meds for pain. So I got gabapentin, and then more gabapentin, and then more, and then more, and then more. And I was up to like 6,400 milligrams of gabapentin. I couldn't see in front of my face, let alone remember my name. And I was in so much pain. That's when I was to the point of crying, "You think I'm crazy." And at that point, I weaned myself off of gabapentin, but I did it wrong because I didn't know better. I had no idea that you couldn't divide capsules up by yourself. So I went through the world's worst withdrawal and had no idea that's what was happening to me. But I'm glad it happened because I found the EDS community. And then I found out that there's some shitty people in the EDS community too. I met a whole bunch of them in person, and I went to some meetings, and I met some amazing people that were really cool and who introduced me to EDS and all its comorbidities. And that's how I learned about ring splints, which, like first I created my own, and then, I learned I got myself to a hand therapist who measured me, and then I got my own. I found an amazing person who makes them pretty cheap out of Latvia. And you become resourceful after a while. I mean, it's how I got my neck brace, is becoming resourceful. There's another EDS person that I know that had this exact neck brace because the one that they gave me kept collapsing on me with my necks.
Yeah.
I'll get to that. But yeah, part of my journey there. So so in the whole process of being invalidated and finding out about myself, I didn't get the diagnoses first. I got psych first. So I got sent to CBT.
Yep.
Typical. First line. Didn't get the FND diagnosis yet. Right now, they're just saying everything is anxiety, everything is trauma. You had an accident, you're traumatized. And at this point, I'm starting CBT, and that's when they realize, because they've cracked the case. And what I say is, they've broken Pandora's box. They ripped all my buried trauma from my head. And now I have flashbacks, nightmares, and CPTSD. Thanks. I didn't have that before. There's a reason children bury those memories. I don't want to relive them. I didn't want to know I was abused. Just, I
Yeah.
and I would say shortly after that, the seizures came, and tics came. But you have to think of all the other factors. Now, this is where it gets weird. I've had a spine injury I've now been sent through crazy therapy. It's 2019. We've had a pandemic.
Yeah.
I am now living in an apartment complex, and my lease is up, and the new ownership has doubled my rent to get me out. I am now homeless again. I am now living in a new room and a new house that I now find out, after living there for a few years, is riddled with black mold, to the point that I eventually have to move out because my wheelchair will fall through the floor. So, I've been diagnosed with pandas. It is a infection that gets to your brain and causes, I have a number of things like OCD, rage attacks, tics. I could have gotten it during the pandemic. I could have gotten it living in that house. I could have gotten it when I was born with mono. I could have gotten it in college when I had an attack of Bell's palsy. I could have gotten it when I had a mini stroke in college. I could have gotten it at any point in my life, and now it came out. I have no idea. But I'm being medicated for it now, which is why I'm able to mask, and it's a lot milder right now. Um and that's nice. Um but it's still there. And it adds another layer to my lack of credibility. So when I go to see neurologists, what do they read? Trauma, PANS, non-epileptic seizures. And they don't look at any of my physical injuries. None of them. None of my physical symptoms ever get mentioned or looked at. I have clonus. I have Lamit's sign. I have so much instability to the point where if I literally turn my head in certain ways, the cracks are so loud, people can hear them. It's gross. I have another sign, I can't remember, it's like hey Mitz sign, that I have fractures on the outsides of my arms. They're basically signs that say fractures. My arms have dislocated so much that they've fractured on the outside. And the only way they can do that, only way they can fix it, is when the fracture gets so bad that they can fill it back in with bone. So I just have to live with fractures. And because I have Medicaid, minor fracture fills are not covered. So I'm literally homeless, malnourished, because they gave me $66 a month for food, not cared for in any way, shape, or form, and really just like hucking it out here. Um, and oh yeah, and I forgot, I wanted to, I told you about this. So my week, these are just hilarious. In the last week, I saw two neurologists. Um, the first neurologist I went to with a new nurse aide. Um, she was as disabled as I was. So she walked in the door and asked to have a seat. I was like, what? And then, like, I'm autistic. I can mask, but if it's the first thing in the morning, I'm not masking very well. Um, um, she was unable to find my shoes. They were right behind her. Um, she was unable to bend down. I literally showed her 3 rooms. My room, which is a blanket fort. It's like literally moving blankets to cover up the front room. The room with the bathroom, which is somebody else's room, and the kitchen. I asked her to go in my room and grab a cup for me while we were in the kitchen. She forgot which one was my room. Then she did things like just be like, hurry up, we're gonna be late, and then like infantilize me the entire time and just be like, all right, slow down, come on, here we go. And I'm just like, what? Who's 40 here? But by the time we got to the doctor's appointment, I had her literally wait in the waiting room because I thought my credibility would be even more shot. But I went into the appointment, new neurologist. I was referred to him by another neurologist that doesn't not favorable. Um, and he literally walked in, sat in his chair, and went like this. And then just sat there until I talked.
So he didn't ask any question.
No, none. It was so awkward. So I just started talking, and he just sat there like this the entire time. It was so rude. And then he told me, after asking a few questions that were really random, that I was a disorganized historian. I told him that I was really upset about this nurse. I even asked if I could stay in the exam room afterwards so that I could call the agency and have her sent back separately. Um, and this man had the gall to look at me and just be like, I don't understand why you're here. What do you want me to do? You have FND. I was like, I had actually um brought your little thing about, some imaging, and had been like, what about some functional imaging? Maybe some flexion. Like, I have this sign, this sign, this sign, this sign. Did you look into my PT's notes? I have clonus. I have no feeling in my lumbar. Like, there's there's plenty of evidence here to work with. Like, I have lymphedema. Like, come on, work with me here. I haven't even had a spinal tap. Come on. It's just like nothing. They're just like, well, you've had an MRI. I'm like, yes, 3 years ago. And I've been doing what? PT and seeing doctors that tell me I have FND. That's it. And then I find out that my POTS diagnosis wasn't even recorded. Yes. So my credibility shot there too. Meanwhile, both my PTs, one that's worked with me for 6 years, has caught me like so many times. I'm just like, just read my PT's notes. Like, come on. She's worked with me for 6 years, like physically with me for hours at a time. It's so frustrating. I mean, then the second, I mean, that was a disaster. He wanted me to schedule a redo and canceled that. I also called the very next morning. I woke up at like 7 a.m. to cut the communication between my primary and him. My new primary is amazing. Um, thank God. I've seen him 4 times now and he's been awesome. He's the one that gave me the benefit of the doubt on the PANS diagnosis, and thank God. The second neurologist I just saw like 2 days ago, and I am so glad I am a better human than her. Um, she was so ridiculous that I couldn't be mad afterwards because it was that absurd. Yeah, I went with my care management, who is a licensed therapist. Um, yeah, I and he went in there with me, and it started off as a migraine neurologist who I was trying to go in from a different angle. Figured show the loud cracks, explain my headache, perma headache. Maybe I can get them to do some different imaging. Maybe I can get her to acknowledge maybe some trigeminal neuralgia, at least something. I explained trigeminal neuralgia, CCI, occipital neuralgia, and, the pain from tethered cord to a T. I've had a migraine diagnosis since I was 8. I did not describe migraine pain. Not once did I say, my eye. Not once. Specifically. Did it on purpose. Like, chronic illness patients were crafty. And she just kept rerouting it. And she kept making me as an autistic person do something that's really difficult for me to do, which is describe how things feel. I have a really difficult time describing emotions and describing how things feel in my body. It's very difficult. If I can just name the symptom, let me name the fucking symptom.
Yeah.
Just let me do it. It took so much longer. And then she did my trauma. So, oh, well, she acknowledged it in that her diagnosis, but not in the fact that you probably shouldn't stand over somebody and aggressively speak at them. I asked her, well, what do you feel like I should do diagnostically? What kind of test do you recommend I do? Course you would recommend for a patient such as me? Trying to entreat her curiosities. And this is what she literally said to me. We talked about this, but she said, Well, your diagnosis is FND. It's not my job to convince you of your diagnosis. If you don't believe it, I'm going to continue believing it. Or what'd she say? No, I'm going to continue believing it whether you believe it or not. That's what it was. Um, what? I told her this is after I told her that it was a lazy diagnosis and she has no evidence. Like, there's literally it's a diagnosis of exclusion. On the NIH page, it says it's conversion disorder. It states that it's from Freud, who has been debunked. It's it's a relic of the past. It is actually it is highly diagnosed to women. Do I sense a bit of hysteria here? You know, like, come on, people. And it's not just functional neurological order. I also have a functional abdominal disorder. What is that? Hmm. My abdomen is functional, but somehow I just, what, cyclically vomit for no reason? Explain that to me. Hmm. There's no explanation to it. And then what is IIH or pseudotuber tumor cerebri? Come on now. Idiopathic intracranial hypertension? It's the same thing as pseudotuber cerebri. It, but it's the same thing as saying, I don't know.
Idiopathic.
That's what yeah, idiopathic. I don't know. Pseudotumor? I think it's a tumor. Sort
like
of.
a pseudo seizure.
Exactly. Non-epileptic. Let's name the thing by what it's not. And then send the person to an epilepsy specialist? Hmm.
No.
Doesn't math. Math ain't mathin'. You know? And that's what I keep coming up to is I keep getting sent to people that tell me that they know something they don't know. They can't possibly know at all. I know this woman for all of 15 minutes and she knows my body better than me. I don't think so. I don't think so. And then like you you want to tell me that my whole body that ends up in the hospital over and over and over again is functioning. Um, I'm sorry, but you don't be a high functioning individual. I mean, like high functioning. I hung from freaking trapeze. Like, I had 6-pack abs until 2018. You don't go from hanging fat trapeze and driving tent stakes to wheelchair with a functional body.
And then they just say, "Oh yeah, I just broken mind," but you know.
No, do you know what they say with me? It's anxiety. It's trauma.
Oh, everything
They
for
blame
to
everything on trauma, everything on anxiety. I end up in the hospital for malnutrition and dehydration. They blame it on PTSD. Yes, I had a PTSD episode because Well, it's the South, and anyone would freak out when they're shooting guns in the street in front of your house. Yeah, especially when you're cyclic vomiting for 3 weeks straight.
I think
Your
they
nerves
didn't
are going to
know.
be a little wracked.
Yeah. One thing they didn't know, I'm actually gonna share the fact, brainstem function, one of the thing is like, it controls the reflexive vomiting things, So no
Mm-hmm.
wonder I actually experienced them myself right before surgery. So I was like, definitely correlated.
Exactly. Exactly. Like that's the other thing. Like I I have so much nausea and like dizziness. Like it's like something you were saying with like the your standing frame, like how you can't really use a standing frame. I don't think I could either. Like I am too dizzy most of the days. It's just like I I I feel like I'm just like even with my neck, like I could not keep it upright most days. Like my wheelchair is actually jerry-rigged with this lovely piece from China, um, just so that I have a headrest because my Medicaid chair did not come with a headrest. Because I'm like I couldn't do without it.
Yeah, I know. Um, Even after surgery, I'm still having sometimes a hard time getting really upright.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you have like a meter where
Mhm.
you're just like, nope, I gotta be leaning against something. Like there wasn't something behind me, I could not. Like I couldn't sit on the mattress.
Yeah.
That would be like being in free space. I'd be the spaceman. Just be like,
Yeah.
no way. Could not do that. Like me and my PT, I'm just like she always wants me to like go off into the middle of the room. I'm like, no, there's nothing to grab there.
Yeah.
She's like, you can do it. Come on. No.
Was the PT also functional mainly during?
They're, they want me to be functional. I'm like, no. So I have a aquatic PT and my it's interesting. My I have an aquatic PT that I've had for 6 years, but at one point in time she bowed out for a little bit, and I got a different aquatic PT who happens to be younger but her boss. And um Jolene's amazing. And she actually has a chronic illness and now can't be in the water for some time. And so now she's become my land PT. And so she tends to coax me to do the more radical acts because she's younger and tries to get a little more creative. And she'll try to like rig up obstacle courses or things, and I'm just like, you're nuts, you know. Like, I'll get like maybe like I don't know, an inch or two through before I'm just like, you're crazy, lady. She usually has to dumb it down every single time. I'm like, you're really, really like aspirational. I commend you. I'm just like every single time, like I'm telling her, I'm like, my arms don't go up that high.
Yeah.
No, they used to. But no, you tried dislocating them enough times. Like I can make them go up that high, but you don't want me to, and I don't want me to. Exactly. That's the face I would make if I made them go up that high. It's usually a surprised face too, because I made them go that way. Yeah, that's usually what happens when I like when I do my hair, I lay down like in this
Yeah.
like sort of angled way,
Yes.
and I try to like position myself so that I can get the best like position.
Yeah.
But if I slip and my arms go too far, that's when you get the surprised face. Yep.
Yeah. I use a weird way to do my hair too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not working. Like my shoulder doesn't work. They always like shoulder.
Yes. I've been contemplating it, but I'm like, I finally got it to grow long. It's been taking me forever. It's like I think it's just 'cause like I was on my mast cells are nuts. Like that was the one thing I got diagnosed extremely easily. I got to see this one doctor, Dr. Aella, um, and it's actually an an interesting dynamic there because I happen to know other patients that get to see her more frequently because they have, mama bears and better insurance. So I get to see her about once a year, but she's a very good doctor. And so when you go to get your mast cell tested, you got to do the whole P-test thing. And she tells me, then I go do the test. She's like, "All right, we're gonna give you like 3 big jugs, and just remember, you can try as many times as you like. It takes people. Don't worry, don't worry." And this was right before Christmas, and like I had a good break before that, like coming up, and so she didn't expect me to like be calling her anytime soon. you know. And no one was going to be around at the house I was at that time, and I was just like, all right, amp this baby up. We're going to get a reaction here.
Yeah.
So I went home and I was just like, we're going to trigger this baby. Went and ate something I knew was going to trigger it. Did. And I got a sample, brought it right into the hospital. Um, Happened to be Christmas Eve. Next day, I got an even stronger reaction, not on purpose. And
And let's take a quick pause. And thank you so much for Aella to tell her story. Of course, this is not the end of the conversation. She has some really interesting mast cell and cast stories and some great resources to share with all of you. Let's keep it more digestible in 2 parts, and we're going to come back on Friday and continue the conversation with Aella. Episode, I would love to have you keep fighting for the answer and gaining more knowledge about your diseases. And follow us also on social media at Occult Awareness with _ to stay connected and informed about our upcoming episode. And also remember, your story matters, your health matters. You are not alone in this journey. Until next time, keep striving for knowledge and awareness. Bye for now.